From the very beginning, we live inside a story that has been quietly shaping our experience, shaping how we see ourselves, shaping how we show up in the world. It is woven with thoughts, feelings, impressions, beliefs, ideas, interpretations. In psychology and neuroscience, they call these cognitions. They are the mental and emotional framework through which we interpret reality. But beyond the science, they are the architecture of our souls. They are the invisible scaffolding of how we experience life. And from the moment we arrive here to this world as soft, open-hearted children, we begin gathering data about love, about safety, about belonging, about possibility. So every glance, every word, every reaction from the world around us is absorbed, imprinted, and internalized. And then as we grow, those imprints become beliefs. Those beliefs become patterns, and those patterns become the lens through which we see everything. So if a child grows up hearing over and over again, be quiet, don't take up space, then that seed may bloom into a cognition that sounds like, my voice doesn't matter. If love feels inconsistent, then the cognition becomes, I have to earn love. If the adults around us live in scarcity or fear, then the cognition might become, there's never enough, or it's not safe to rest. And these early messages are not the truth of who we are. They are survival strategies. They are adaptations that are meant to protect us. But the thing is, over time, they begin to feel like the truth. They become the invisible lens through which we see the world, through which we see ourselves. And here's the quiet paradox. The stories we carry are not the truth. They are simply patterns we've been trained to believe. And yet, they shape everything. They shape how we relate, how we create, how we receive, how we allow love and abundance into our lives. Two people can walk through the same moment, the same event, and emerge with completely different truths, because each is seeing through a filter and through a lifetime of different cognitions. And yet beneath all of these stories lies something unchanging, something vast, something infinite. Each of us carries within a wellspring of vitality, creativity, possibility. And that is our natural state. That is our birthright. It is our inheritance. But when our beliefs are rooted in fear, in doubt, in limitation, then that wellspring feels distant. It feels blocked. Sometimes it might even feel invisible. The more we identify with old patterns, the further we drift from the truth of who we are, which is radiant, abundant, infinite expressions of divine intelligence. And this is where the Re-Cognizing Method comes in. So in the last 2 decades, I've devoted my life to bringing my own self back to wholeness, or better yet, I should say, to remembering the wholeness that was there all along. From spending 6 years living in an ashram in India to living in the Amazon jungles of Peru, studying under the Shipibo tribe, to also living in Israel for 8 years. I've studied under some of the greatest enlightened masters and Kabbalists and sages and shamans and teachers. Thank God. What a blessing. So the last 18 years has been a deep dive into remembering who I am. And as a result, helping others remember as well. And so the culmination, or I should say the result of these last 2 decades, has been a compilation of research, experience, and devotion that has really led me to formulating what I now call the Re-Cognizing Method. So in this episode, I go deep in unpacking the actual method to my madness. And I hope to give you a sneak peek into my world of healing, growth, and remembering. Let's get into it. Becoming a co-creator with the creator is your birthright. Together, we'll journey into your deepest authenticity. Because the more you align with who you truly are, the more effortlessly you call in the life that you desire and deserve. And most importantly, the more you step into your soul's highest purpose. Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast, your #1 source for Kabbalistic manifestation. Here we combine the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, modern psychology, and quantum physics to help you achieve real, tangible manifestation results with my proven Abra method. I'm Ayelet Polonsky, and I'm here to guide you on your journey of manifesting a life that is aligned, expansive, and deeply connected to your highest self through the sacred energetic mechanics of Kabbalistic manifestation. To learn how to use Kabbalistic manifestation to transform your life from the inside out, go to ayeletpolonsky.com or download the Manifestation Method app. Let's open the gates of manifestation together. So to recognize means literally to know again, to see again, to remember. Recognizing is a sacred journey back to the self that existed before the conditioning, before limitation, before the stories we adopted from our world, before fear came in. It is the work of reclaiming your blueprint, reclaiming your innate knowing, your essence. It is the practice of noticing what's been unconscious or what's been living in your blind spot, illuminating it, bringing it to the realm of your awareness so you can now alchemize it, and then choosing to consciously live from your soul's truth, from the essence of who you truly are. And so the Re-Cognizing Method is both deeply mystical and also deeply practical. It is psychological, neurological, somatic, it is spiritual. It is about understanding how the beliefs you formed as a child shaped your nervous system, shaped your emotional patterns, and your sense of identity. And then using awareness, presence, and inner alchemy to transform those old structures into your living, breathing truth. And when we look at this through the lens of Kabbalah, we find that the Re-Cognizing Method is not just psychological or somatic. It is truly deeply spiritual. It is rooted in the ancient understanding of the soul, the divine blueprint, and the sacred architecture of reality. And so Kabbalah teaches that everything in creation is structured as light flowing through vessels, as the sphirot on the tree of life. And these vessels are intended to hold divine abundance. And when we experience trauma, fear, conditioning, these sacred vessels crack, they distort, they shatter, they collapse, right? Or what the Kabbalists call klipot, right? These are shells that now obscure the light, get formed around your vessels. And all of us have our own personal vessels. We are a living, breathing vessel that can hold an abundance of light. But when they get shattered and we don't do the soul correction, then klipot, blockages begin to form. And so our early cognitions, or the stories we internalized as children, are all like these tiny klipot, right? Or these protective shells that formed. And they formed for good reason. They formed to protect us, to shield us from pain, from rejection, from scarcity. So they're not inherently evil. They are functional. They are survival. But they block the flow of divine light and truth, the flow of our natural abundance and creative potential. So every I am not enough thought, or every I have to earn love thought, or every it's not safe to rest, I just have to hustle thought, is a klipa that has shaped our perception of the world, our perception of self, and our perception of God. And so Kabbalah also teaches the process of tikkun, aka soul correction, right? Because the soul comes into this world carrying a blueprint. You came into this world already carrying a blueprint of what needs to be corrected, integrated, and illuminated based on the, culmination of all of your past lives and ancestral lineage and so many things. And so each time we recognize or recognize a pattern, each time we see a story with new eyes, each time we recommit to truth over limitation, we are performing a tikkun. We are restoring broken vessels. We are allowing divine light to flow where it was once blocked. And this is the sacred marriage of inner alchemy and spiritual evolution. It is the very essence of the Re-Cognizing Method. Okay, and so let me actually give you some concrete examples based on Kabbalah to drive this point home in a way that feels relatable. All right, so consider the sphira, the energetic blueprint from the tree of life of Bina. Bina is one of the sphirot on the tree of life. Bina is the sphira of understanding and receptivity. Understanding and receptivity. So if as a child, you learned that asking questions or expressing curiosity was not safe, then the vessel of Bina may have been constrained, contracted. You may have grown into an adult who doubts your own understanding, who questions your intuition, who relies endlessly on authority to make decisions. So through recognizing, you bring awareness to this limitation. You reclaim your right to know yourself. And you recommit to listening to the wisdom that has always been within you. Right? Or take chesed, the sphera of love and generosity and flow. So if you grew up in scarcity or received inconsistent love, you may unconsciously withhold kindness, both from yourself and from others, right? You might believe it's not safe to give, or that if you give, it'll never be returned, or worse, you might be taken advantage of. So by recognizing this, by seeing the pattern, understanding the survival mechanism, and then choosing differently, you actually restore the flow of chesed in your life. You allow love to move freely, right? Beginning with yourself. You remember that generosity of heart is not transactional, but rather it is your birthright, right? And even Gevura, the sphera of boundaries and discernment can be distorted, right? If you learned as a child that asserting yourself was dangerous, then your boundaries may have been compromised. So perhaps you overgave or people pleased or shut down your needs in order to preserve connection. So through recognition, you actually recognize where those old vessels were cracked. You understand why you adapted, and you consciously rebuild your capacity to hold space for yourself, to say yes and no in alignment with your soul, and to embody strength without fear or aggression or reactivity. Right? So Kabbalah also teaches us that every experience, every pattern, every limitation carries a hidden spark of light. The old story is never wasted, and there is nothing wrong with you. In fact, every cognition is the doorway, right? And that is why recognition is not about erasing the past, but about seeing it through the lens of divine remembrance, through Kabbalistic awareness. And through this awareness, we see the fractures in our vessel. And we see the light that has always been there, waiting for us to reclaim it. And even the very act of remembering is sacred, right? It's like everything I stand for, like my life's mission is about remembering who I am in every moment and coming back to that remembering and helping you remember who you are. And this word remembering is so potent, right? Take the Hebrew word for remembering, zachor. Zachor is more than memory. It is an active recollection of alignment. Hi, Ayelet here. I just wanted to pop in and say I am so excited to officially introduce the Manifestation Method portal, membership, and app. This is your home for all things Kabbalistic manifestation. You'll get access to my monthly live workshops, soul deep hypno activations and attunements, all of our manifestation courses, and our global community of manifestors. And the best part, it's just $26 a month. That's less than a latte a week. Come manifest alongside me and start creating the life you desire and deserve. Head over to ayeletpolonsky.com to join us. It's an invocation of the soul's original blueprint. And so each time you recognize, you are performing zachor. You are calling forth the light that has always existed within you, right? You are realigning with your spherotic architecture, right? Allowing the light to shine into every vessel that was once blocked by fear, limitation, misbelief, right? And here's the mystical beauty. Kabbalah shows us that these patterns are not just personal. These patterns are intergenerational. They're cosmic. They stem in past lives. They are archetypal. So every old story you carry may have roots in family, in community, in lineage. And each act of recognition, each recommitment to your truth does more than heal your soul. It shifts the entire field. It softens the klipot. It allows light to flow through channels that were previously constricted. And in doing so, you are actually participating in a collective cosmic repair, right? You are performing tikkun olam, not as an abstract concept, but as a living embodied practice. And this is why the Re-Cognizing Method is so aligned with Kabbalah, because both teach that awareness is not enough. Understanding is not enough. Transformation happens when we reclaim the light within the fractured vessel, when we recognize, when we recommit, and then when we re-embody. And when we do this, we are no longer merely surviving the world through conditioned patterns, but rather we are walking as the full expression of our soul's blueprint, as radiant, aligned, creative, and whole. And so there are 4 movements, 4 phases, 4, I call them sacred portals, that we move through on this journey. And I'm going to break it down for you in these 4 sacred portals. Okay, the first is recognize. Then comes recognize, right? From recognize to recognize. To then, third, recommit. And finally, re-embody. So recognize, recognize, recommit, and rebody. Okay, so first, recognize. In this phase, we shine light on the shadows. We shine light on the cognitions, on the old I ams, and the old life is statements that really formed the architecture of your subconscious. And remember, we don't manifest according to what we think we want. We manifest according to our unconscious desires. So going into the subconscious and discovering what the cognitions are that have been living there, maybe probably for your whole life, if not more, right, is sacred alchemy, is how you start manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. And this process is not about blame. It's not about blaming our parents or our ancestors. And it's also not about fixing, because you were never broken to begin with. This is all part of this divine plan, right? Recognizing is simply about seeing. It's where you meet the parts of yourself that adapted, that learned these beliefs in order to survive, that learned these beliefs in order to be safe, in order to belong. And so you begin to notice, oh, this isn't who I am. This is who I became in order to belong. And if you haven't listened to the episode on belonging, that was actually the previous episode from last week. I really recommend after this one, you listen to that, because it'll really unpack our core wound around belonging, and it'll help this episode make a lot more sense, right? But like from this place of recognizing, you start to witness yourself with compassion. And from that place, the act of seeing becomes or begins the sacred alchemy process. Okay. Next step is re-cognize, right? This is the sacred act of knowing again. Here, the story is not proof of your brokenness. It is simply the messenger. It is a thread in your soul's tapestry. It is part of your ultimate tikkun, the correction or evolution your soul came here specifically for you to experience. So again, this is all perfect and by design. And in this recognizing phase, you begin to engage with your beliefs differently. You begin to meet them with curiosity and reverence. This is where you say, I remember now. Right? This is the part of me back then that needed to survive. But I am no longer that person today. And I am not under the same threat today. And from that place, we start to see all of the beliefs and stories that we actually attached to the childhood experience itself, or the younger experience, I should say. It's not always childhood. Sometimes it's teenage years, whatever it is. A lot of it is childhood, right? We have these experiences that we've attached meaning to, right? And our meaning making is what forms the basis of our reality. And so we start to recognize, shift the meaning that we attached to those experiences. right? Just because I had a crush on Tommy when I was 8 and he didn't like me back and he told me he didn't like me back, does that mean that I'm not lovable? No, of course not. Of course I'm lovable. But after age 8, I didn't know how to live with that belief of being lovable. So I carried that seed that got planted at age 8 that said, you are not lovable. You are not worthy. You are not enough. And now as an adult, through recognizing, I get to see that experience through new eyes, right? Here, awareness begins to shift into understanding, true understanding. And the mind softens, the body softens. The story no longer has the power to bind you. And that takes us to the third movement, which is recommit, right? So recognition is not enough unless it transforms action, right? Once you have seen and you have recognized, you understood, now you get to make a new choice. So you actually renegotiate your inner contract. Here you get to decide consciously how you will speak to yourself, how you will act, what you will embody moving forward, right? So you recommit to the self that you are becoming. You recommit to living in alignment with that truth, with love, with the wellspring that has always been inside of you. And so awareness awakens you, but recommitment, that anchors you. And this is where transformation takes root, which then moves us into the final portal, the final movement, which is re-embodying, aka integration. This means living the story that you have recognized. So here the body remembers. It's not just on the level of mind. Here the nervous system stabilizes and the mind begins to align with the truth of the soul. Here you begin to respond to life from wholeness, not from the wound. Right here, you begin to inhabit a new architecture of reality, one where your old patterns are no longer controlling your perception, where your old patterns are no longer gripping onto the steering wheel. Right here, the embodiment piece is about walking in the world as the self that always existed. Right now, fully remembered, fully lived. And this is such a crucial, critical piece to manifesting any outcome, right? Because you can't repeat the old patterns over and over again and expect different results or expect a different future to reveal itself. You must draw that version of you from the future, the version of you that is embodied, the version of you that feels whole, the version of you that remembers your radiance. You must draw that version of you from the future into the now and start walking in the world as that version of you. This is full embodiment. And this is not an abstract process. It is lived. It is felt. In the full experience of the Re-Cognizing Method, my participants are guided through somatic embodiment practices to access the wisdom of the body, right? There are journaling prompts to witness and reflect. There are guided visualizations to meet the higher self or the divine witness, right? We do breath work in order to release old tension. We bring in sound frequency to work with and to settle and to integrate. We incorporate my hypno activations, which include hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, right? It's such a fully embodied experience that brings us into a real journey of remembrance. It is a rebirth of perception. It is a rebirth of your beingness. And by the end, my participants are not only aware of old patterns, it goes beyond the level of mind, right? They actually feel the shift. They feel themselves differently. And they carry a new alignment out into the world. And it is here where I remind them, and I remind you now, that this method doesn't promise perfection, right? It does not erase the past, but it transforms your relationship to the past. It is about recognizing, recognizing who you've always been beneath the story, and then recommitting to living from that place, right? So abundance, love, creativity, peace. These were never things you ever needed to chase because they are your natural state, waiting for you to simply remember, right? And there is a practice that you can do at home today, right now. Bring a childhood picture of yourself to mind, or if you have an actual photograph, even better. And see your younger self. See her or him as soft, vulnerable, alive, full of longing, full of hope, full of possibility. And now let your current self, the wiser, stronger, filled with presence self, speak to that younger version. What would you say? What would you teach? What would you reassure? And as you offer that message, feel it flow through your body, through your heart, through your mind, and let the new agreement take root. Let the old story soften. This is the essence of recognition, of awareness, remembrance, and recommitment. And you may choose to carry this mantra with you, the mantra that says, I recognize, I recognize, I remember, I recommit. And if you feel called to deepen this work, to be held and guided through the full embodiment, there is a space where this lives in ongoing practice, and that is inside my online manifestation method membership. This is where you can explore these principles and actually practice them and integrate them with an online community that is moving through the same sacred journey as you are. Right? Transformation is simple in essence, but it is profound and it is unfolding. Right? You awaken to what was unconscious. You recommit to the self you are becoming. You live from that wholeness. Right? You recognize, you remember, you embody, and you rebirth. So wherever you are listening right now, take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your body alive. Feel your heart awake. And know that you are not bound by your old story. This story has served you, it has taught you, but it does not define you. Your actual self is vast and infinite. It is abundant, it is divine. And it has always been there, waiting for your remembrance. And so I invite you to pause, to reflect, and to allow the truth of this to settle into your nervous system, into your bones, into your very being. And as you move through your day, carry this gentle, unwavering awareness. You are not your story. You are the one who is seeing, the one who remembers, the one who chooses. You are the witness and the creator, the soul and the body, the light and the love. I recognize, I remember, I recommit, I rebirth. Amen, amen, amen. So it is. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going inside the Manifestation Method Portal app, your #1 destination for Kabbalistic manifestation. Inside, you'll unlock the secrets of manifestation through my proven Abra method, rooted in Kabbalah, psychology, and quantum physics, designed to help you manifest real, tangible results from the inside out. Join our global community of manifestors, explore our signature courses, monthly live manifestation workshops with me, Ayelet, and access our transformational hypno activations and attunements to rewire limiting beliefs and align with your soul's purpose. The app is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To sign up, head over to ayeletpolonsky.com. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Let's manifest the life you desire and deserve together.